Welcome to my channel. This is JC Rock and Metal Reviews. My name is John and I got a new album review for you. It is a new album by Fear Factory called Aggression Continuum. But before I begin, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. So Fear Factory are back. They've been around a long time. They kind of started, actually they formed in 1989, and it's interesting to know they started as like a death metal band, but they started changing their sound, later on. They released their first album called The Soul of a New Machine in 1992, and this was had a different sound. It had more of like a death metal, maybe like a grindcore type of sound. They did start as a very heavy band, but their next album called Demanufacture, like that was their big album. Like most people say that's like their signature album because they started incorporating elements of like industrial metal, and it really was a big album, for the industrial metal scene, which was very big in the mid 90s. They followed that up with Obsolete in 1998, and this one has a cover of Gary Numan's Cars, which is a pretty cool cover because the original song Cars is actually kind of like an electro pop song, so it really worked like as a metal song. And basically they've been putting out albums since then fairly consistently. Maybe one album every 3 to 4 years. So this new album was released not long ago, a couple days ago, in 2021, and it is like their biggest gap since releasing albums. The last one was released in 2016. It's a decent album. I'm not going to say it's like an awesome album. I'm going to go through the tracks in a minute, but it's decent. It's heavy. It kind of has like a more of like a modern metal sound. I hear elements of like Gent, like that Meshuggah sound. I hear elements of like metalcore, but it still has that industrial music. Still has that same sound. Has the aggressive vocals, the clean vocals, a lot of like keyboards, sci-fi effects. There's not really a lot of like technical guitar solos, just a lot of heavy riffs, like futuristic keyboards. There's a lot of spoken word, some sounds that sound like kind of like a film score, but I'll talk about that right now. So I'm going to be going through the tracks. There's 8 tracks. Actually, no, I'm wrong. There's 10 tracks, and it's about 48 minutes long. So let me go through them. So the album begins with the song Recode. It starts with like this futuristic voice talking about like fighting for the future, kind of like setting the stage. They kind of want to like start out like this. It's almost as if it's like this like post-apocalyptic like sci-fi movie. Kicks off, heavy intro riff. You can tell they tune the guitars down. The tone sounds like those like metalcore or deathcore bands. Has some cool sound effects. Creates a lot of atmosphere. Has some aggressive vocals and some clean vocals. Not a bad start to the album. The next song is called Disruptor, and it's a fast and heavy riff. This one reminds me of the band Meshuggah. Has that riff played in like an odd time signature, but it's a really heavy song. Nice interplay with the clean and aggressive vocals. Guitar and the bass sound really good in this one, and the song was actually released as a single before the release of the album. After that is a title track, and it does start out with kind of like this epic like film score sound in the beginning, but main riff kicks in, same thing, very heavy. This one's a little more like thrashy, I would say. Has some synth keyboards in the background. Still has that like fast-paced machine gun riffing. Also a little bit elements of like the industrial metal start to come in on this song, and this is a decent one. Next song is called Purity, probably one of my favorite songs. The opening riff is more reminiscent of their older sound and has the keyboards and the industrial sounds. This song is a little more of like a throwback of their earlier sound. It's also a little more catchier, a little more accessible than the first few tracks. Still a good track. Has a really killer breakdown at the 2.5 minute mark, and like I said, really good song. And the next one is also probably one of my favorites, and it was also a single released before the album came out called Fuel Injected Suicide Machine. This one also has that like old school like industrial metal sound. It's very fast and heavy. Some pretty cool like machine gun riffing and a breakdown. Pretty cool sci-fi effects. This one's a little more like proggy than the others. You know, there's a lot of like different like changes going on. Probably one of the better tracks in the album. So the next song is called COLLABS. It starts out with like an authority figure telling people to evacuate the streets, and we've heard that before. We've heard it with Megadeth, we've heard it with Body Count, and probably a couple other bands. But it's a decent song, still has heavy riffs. Next song called Manufactured Hope, and another heavy song, heavy riffs, industrial sound, some pretty cool like galloping riffs, some keyboards. The drums sound really good in this one, and you know, another decent track. Next one is called Cognitive Dissonance, and does start out with some futuristic like keyboard sounds and has some heavy guitars. It's fast paced. Another pretty cool song. After that is Monolith, and does have some cool crushing riffs. The verse section, again, this one's a little catchier, a little more easy listening than the other ones. You know, the vocals are a little cleaner, a little easier to listen, but still very heavy. Has those crushing riffs, aggressive vocals. Pretty decent song. And the last song is called End of the Line. Starts out with some stop-start riffs, has that like metalcore sound a little bit coming back into it. You do hear some industrial music in the drumming, has that, you know, that like hitting some kind of piece of metal or something like that. But this is a longer song, so like 27 minutes or something like that. Last 2 minutes of the song is kind of a little more like slow, atmospheric. You know, you hear a voice speaking, you know, speaking to somebody like futuristic sounds. Does bring the album to a close, and that's it. So, in conclusion, I think it's a decent album. Didn't really blow me away. They did incorporate a lot of sounds from like the modern metal, and the songs do kind of sound the same. Like there's not really a lot of variety. Sometimes, you know, I want to hear like slow down at times. I want to hear like maybe some different sounds, some different like maybe some clean guitars. But I guess this is Fear Factory. This is kind of what they do. I haven't really listened to all their albums, so I don't really know if this album is different than the other albums. I know so many other YouTube channels like this a lot, and some of the other ones didn't like it. I'm kind of on the fence. So for now, I'm going to rank it a 7 out of 10. That's kind of what I'm going to do. It might have potential to like get a little better later on, but I'm just giving it a 7 out of 10 for now. And that's my score. Let me know what you thought of the album. Have you heard it? And basically, how does it stand up against their other albums? And let me know. Let's get a conversation going. So that is it. I have some more stuff coming up. There's another new release by the band Styx. I'll do some classic rock. So that's it. Comment below, like, comment, subscribe. Check out my in-video links. I'll see you in the next one.